Hi, my name is William from the Attachment Company, and in this video I'm going to show you how to disassemble, repair and rebuild this GB hydraulic breaker. This breaker was dropped off to us by a good customer of ours, and on visual inspection you can see that's not meant to be there. There's a couple of things that we can visually see wrong with it that needs repairing. So what we're going to do, we're going to take hoses off, chisel off, breaker out of the box. We're going to completely strip it. I'll show you the parts that make up a breaker. I'll show you what needs replaced, what needs repaired. Then we'll put it back together and we'll test it before we give it back to the customer. I'll do my best throughout the process to explain the different parts. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment down below. I'll be happy to try and answer them for you. So this is a GB breaker, general breaker, made in Korea. It's a brand of breaker that we sell, hence why we are doing the repair on it. It is a GBM160L. I'll put the technical specifications here. Customers been using it on sort of their 2 to 3 ton excavators. It's not the prettiest looking thing in the world, but it's been put to good use. It's a breaker that goes on and off a machine. It gets left on job sites. It is what it is. We're going to get it back to full health, back to working order. First, let's get it apart and I'll show you what we're working with. That's a good start. We've got the hoses off, we've got the chisel out, we've got the top plate off. Now we can stand the breaker on its end and take the actual breaker mechanism out of the silo's box and see what we're dealing with. Hopefully. that's the actual breaker assembly removed from the box. So we can see there in the corner of the frame is, it's what would be called a silenced box. That's what makes this breaker into a silenced version, as silent as a breaker could be. The other option is what they would call the open type, which is 2 side plates bolted directly onto here, and that's what gives you your hitch bracket. But for all intents and purposes, this is the part of your breaker that does the work. This is the part with the piston in it, and then the chisel in it, and that's what hits each other together and gives you your braking ability. Now, we're going to have to take these 4 big tie rods out. First things first, there's nitrogen gas in the head of this breaker. We have to vent that gas out first, then we can get the tie rods out. First, let's put the gauge on, take a reading, what pressure's inside it, then we'll let the gas pressure out. 12 bar total pressure. I don't think you'll be able to see that necessarily from the camera there, but 12 bar pressure is good enough gas pressure, but it does mean there is pressure in here, which we need to take out before we take the tie rods out. Because otherwise, that's a real bad idea otherwise. All we're going to do is hold that down, open the tap, let the pressure out. Now that's all the gas out of the breaker. That will let us remove these tie rods. Obviously we need to repressurise the gas in here. What we'll do is we'll build it back in the body and then we'll pressure up the gas. So there, I've identified why the bottom bush keeps falling out, because the roll pin is broken. That's what holds in the bottom bush. So it goes that way, there's a recess, 2 seconds I'll show you. That's supposed to sit in that recess of the bottom bush, therefore to retain it. It's not going to retain it when it's broken. Right, that's a good start. I'm going to wait till I get a big battery impact gun, I should say, to remove those tie rod bolts. But that's a right good start. We've identified some issues with it, and we can get the tie rods out, get the parts identified tomorrow, and get them ordered. Okay, we've got the breaker stripped as far as I want to take it at the moment. Let me quickly show you around. So from top to bottom, if you like, we've got the gas backhead. That's where the nitrogen pressure lives in there. That sits on top of the main breaker body. You can see down in there. That piston is upside down at the moment, but if you can imagine it turning over, it slides down in the main breaker body, in that cylinder there. And then that whole assembly, the cylinder, the gas head, sits down on these tie rods and sits down on to the lower section of the breaker with the piston inside it. This is the top bush that lives about there, and the bottom bush lives there. So if I do that and do that is about right, the tool or the chisel sits inside them, protrudes out the bottom, and it's this end of the piston that hits the top of the chisel. So there, this is as stripped as I want to take it. The valve assembly is in there. I don't want to remove that at the moment until we've got a seal kit. Otherwise, all looks fairly intact. Nothing too major wrong with it. We're going to get seal kit, top bush, bottom bush, some tool, some bush retaining pins and some bits and pieces. So we'll get this priced up to the customer, we'll get them ordered. When we come to put them back together, I'll show you around. So that's us, got the breaker apart. We've inspected what we needed, we've ordered up the part, and as if by magic, they have arrived. So let's open this, I'll show you what we ordered, and then let's make a start at putting it back together. Not to start giving you a sales pitch, but this is one of the reasons that we chose to go with the GB breakers as our main breaker manufacturer. Because we think they're good. They're a good reliable breaker at a good price, but they also keep parts in the Netherlands, so within a couple of days we can have parts here should we need it. They're built in Korea, but they are warehoused for Europe and the Netherlands, so it literally is a few days to get parts. So what have we got? Main part, seal kit. We've got it apart, so it's daft not to put a fresh seal kit in it. Roll pins, more roll pins, and more roll pins. If you remember there, that's the part that broke that was stopping the bottom bush from staying in the breaker, or was causing it to fall out of the breaker, should I say. We've got a new chisel. Did it need a new chisel? Not necessarily, but the price point of the chisel was fairly low, so we're getting parts anyway. Makes sense, we'll just put a new one in it. And top bush and bottom bush. Folks, please excuse my forklift pallet workbench. It's the easiest way to put it in the middle of the warehouse to let you all see what's going on. So let's make a start. You all seen this when we took it apart. That is the centre portion of the breaker body. I am going to get some rags so we can clean things as we go along here. First, we're going to pull out and reseal the valve assembly. So let's strip that out to begin with. Keeping it in order of how it came out. And keeping the parts list up there for reference. Once I can get this part out. So there is the valve assembly, and that's essentially what keeps the breaker running properly. So it controls the flow of oil and then giving you your actual braking force. It is assembled of 3 parts, as you can see. I'm trying just to keep these in order of how they came out here. So that goes there and that goes there. We'll get ourselves a seal pick. and remove the old seals. One. Two. Now, as much as there's absolutely nothing wrong with these seals, it's just good practice. We're this far in, we've got a seal kit anyway, just change them for all the length of time that it takes. And this seal kit is fairly extensive. You can see the amount of different parts and different seals in it. So the trickiest part of this normally is identifying which of the new seals matches the one you've taken out. I was watching you don't mix up the new seals with the old seals. Clean that up again and just fit the new seal. You can see there's a recess there for the seal. It just goes over there and pushes on. Okay. Give it a clean off. You'll see here where all the seals are. You see down in there, there's 1, 2, 3 and a 4th one on the outside. Right, same procedure. Remove the old ones, identify the new ones, fit them back in. Very important that these new seals go in the same direction as the ones coming out. So we'll make sure to keep tabs on which way these seals go in. There is a diagram on the parts list, but it's good practice to just keep a note of that for ourselves as well. And this is exactly what seal picks were invented for. That way up, and that's the middle one. And then the top one. Coming out split, but it's out. Right, now to identify the new ones. That's clearly that one, that's clearly that one. Flat 6 goes down the way. That's the wrong seal. Back to what I was saying about making sure you identify the correct seal, because that wasn't it. This is it. Goes down the way. Oh yeah, that's definitely it. Handy seal install tool doing the business there. Two. Should be able to get this one in on its own. 3. Done. Just make sure they're fully seated. I thought there was one on the outside here, but there's actually not. It's just a recess. So it's just the 3. Over here, we'll replace these little plugs. 1, 2, 3, and 3 O-rings for them. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Let me redo these seals. They should work here. So that's us done with that part of the breaker. On to the next part. So we've got the lower section and we've got the piston. I think we'll reseal piston end first once we get this off. So, well, there's an issue. I don't know if you can see the state of that seal there, but it is in fairly bad condition. So further proving our idea right that we should always reseal breakers when we're this far into dismantling them, because that seal, I'll take it out in a second to show you, but that seal is done. Same again, same process, seals off, make sure you're keeping a note of which direction they're facing, match them up to the new ones, put the new ones in. Yep, remember that seal I told you was bad? Hopefully you can see that. Let's put this back together. Up. Okay, we've got the seal retainer resealed, we've got the cylinder assembly resealed, we're going to get the seal retainer back on the piston. There are, I'm just checking this before I tell you anything that's nonsense, there's one tiny seal in this bottom head assembly, or front head assembly. We'll do that, we'll do the seals in the back head, then we can start reassembling this. I think what we'll do is let's reseal the back head, then we can put the bushes in this lower assembly. Okay, now we can fit the upper and lower bush back in the bottom of this breaker. This, if you remember, was the issue think I said that earlier, that the lower bush kept falling out. So let's put the both of them back in. Make sure the retaining pins are in properly, and we shouldn't have that problem again. Strangely, that upper bush is a different design to the one that came out. Shouldn't be an issue though. Line it up with the hole there, that is, so you can see there's a cutout in the bush. You line that up with the hole in the body, there is where the roll pin goes and retains the bush. Turn that around so I can show you. That. Done. Alright, that's the majority of the seals done. So let's start, I think, just double check in case I forgot anything. Don't think so. Let's start putting this back together. Start with the lower assembly. Now it's starting to look a bit more like a breaker again. Tilt you down so you can see a bit better. Take the back head, put the back head on the top. Do before that, set it up. Knock the piston down. Now we can put the back head on. Like so. Okay, so we've got the main part of the breaker reassembled, everything resealed. We've got the tie rod nuts on. Next job is to torque them down. There is an official spec for this. I'll put it up on the screen here. 300 to 400 Newton meters. We'll split that, we'll go in the middle. We'll make it 350. We'll torque all of these up. Then we can start to get it back in the box, in the silenced box. Get a tool on it, get some hoses on it, get some gas in it. Actually, we might gas it up before we put it in the box, I'll see. Get some gas in it and get ready to test this thing. Now obviously I've got this sitting on the forklift. It would be the same if it was sitting on a bench, but the challenge here is we need to torque these nuts without just turning the whole breaker on the forks here. So there's multiple ways to do this, but I'm choosing to ratchet strap it to the forks. That should be more than enough. Got my torque wrench back, got a socket, set this, pull these tight. You go, 350 Newton meters, hopefully you can see that. So we put them in with the half-inch impact gun, and you can see just how much extra they need to actually get the torque, spec I should say. We'll wind the setting back off of this torque wrench before we put it away. I think what we'll do, seeing as we've got this out, we'll just gas it up with nitrogen now before we put it back in the box. It's a bit easier to show you the whole process when it's out like this, as opposed to when it's back looking a bit more like a breaker. So put these straps away and then we'll do that now. So this is a bottle of pure nitrogen, 99.995% purity. And that goes in here. So we stripped this off when we were obviously disassembling the breaker. This portion here is what gets charged up with the gas. I have the hose kit here for the bottle. I have the pressure charging kit for the breaker. So let's put the two of them together, charge this breaker up. I need to check and see what the 14 bar, 198 psi. Easy. I was going to go look that up on the manual, but it says it on the breaker. So that might vary depending on your make and your model of breaker. So it is best to check. What suits your machine. I'll put a cutout of the spec sheet in here for this one, and you can see gas back head pressure for this little breaker. Take another reading just to make sure. Oh, my shot. There we go. The way I've got this bottle set up and this gauge set up, I'll spin you around and show you. There's a gauge on the breaker sitting at just above 14 bar, and there's one on the bottle that's a touch high, that's at 18. We'll let a tiny bit out of that, and then we'll just give that 10 minutes just to make sure it stays solid, but I can't hear any leaks, so first step done. This is pretty much ready to go back in the outer box. Theoretically, I could test it where it is at the moment, but it's late in the evening. I would like to get this in. I'm 99% confident what we've done is good to go. So I'm going to put it back in the box, get some hoses on it. That means we can get a chisel on it, and we can try and hopefully get this tested out in the morning. I've gave this a wash off, cleaned out all the grease from it. So this is ready to go back in. Let me aim you down there so you can see. Now obviously this is a fairly small breaker, I can move this around. Handling it, anything bigger than this is not advisable. You can rig something up to lift this in and out with a forklift, but for time saving I'm going to put this in myself just now. There we go. I'm sure back when we stripped this breaker, I said that these pins that came out, they need welded back in, but for the sake of putting it together, I'm going to put it together with these on, then we'll take that back off and weld the pins in. I'm going to leave all these plates off. I'm going to put the hoses on, going to put the tool in, then we can pretty much go and test this in the morning. That's about as much as we can do with this just now. It's ready to go and test. I've left all the cover plates and things off just till we test it in the morning. New chisels in, you can see it's a whole lot better than it was. It needs greased up, put on a machine and tested. So yeah, cut to the testing. We've welded the pins back in the hitch bracket, we've greased the breaker up, and now to go and give it a proper test. That there, folks, is the sound of a successful breaker rebuild, thankfully. Only one thing left to do, clean up these covers, get them back on, get this buttoned up, and it'll be ready to go back to the customer. Hopefully this video has been informative, it's made sense to you. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer them for you. But that's pretty much start to finish breaker, strip, assess, repair, rebuild. Not as complicated as you thought, I hoped, but hopefully that explains a little bit of the process and how breakers work as well. Now ideally, if this breaker was going back to everyday work, you would probably put a fresh set of hoses on it, but I know in this instance that's not going to be the case. Customer was just wanting it rebuilt. Make sure it's ready to go if ever they need it, but I will advise a fresh set of hoses. Otherwise, we've done new seal kit, new chisel, new tool retainer, and new top and new bottom bush. hopefully you enjoyed that and it was a little bit informative and I managed to explain everything somewhat properly. I hope in the future we get to do some more videos like this. If you liked it, you enjoyed it, you want more like this, let me know. We'll try our best to keep making them in between our normal week-to-week videos. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Once again, my name's been William, we're the Attachment Company, and I'll see you in the next one.